We're getting closer. Yeah. Test 1, 2. Aha. All right. I think we're getting closer. All right. First item is call to order, roll call. We'll go ahead and use our iPads to roll call, or are we going to do a verbal?
Use the iPads, please.
All right. So it should be popping up shortly here to log in on your iPads or to go ahead and do our regular vote on the iPads to start, to show your presence.
City of Corona. Could you log in, please? Thank you. City of Hemet.
We good, Janice? All right. With that, we'll move on to the most important item. Item number 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Debbie, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me in the pledge. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, wait, you're not. Actually said Debbie.
We let the record reflect that I asked Debbie Franklin from Banning to do the pledge, but Kevin was a willing volunteer. Thank you, Kevin.
I wasn't listening, and I asked Chuck who, and he said, oh, it's you. Leadership in action.
All right. I do have 3 public comment cards for items not on the agenda. So this will be for items not on the agenda. Due to the fact that we have a large amount of public comment cards, we'll be going down to 2 minutes. I have 11 for the following item in the CA item. So with that, we'll go to just 2 minutes for public comments. First up will be Raul Rodriguez. Raul, come on down. And then after him will be Robert Loveton, if he could be close to the microphone to go afterwards. Robert, this is for public comment for items not on the agenda. So please keep your comments to items that are not on the agenda. Thank you. Yep. Stella, you'll be after Robert.
Say 2 minutes?
What's that?
2 minutes?
2 minutes for items not on the agenda.
Okay. My name is Raul Rodriguez, and I'm the California Coordinator for America First Latinos. And basically what we do is we put America and Americans first. I'm here to speak on the fact that I don't agree with Agenda 21. I don't agree with Sandbag or SCAG or the WRCOG. You guys are a shadow government. You're not even elected. So therefore, I don't agree with this whole thing taking place. So I think this is a wrong way of, it's a government control, and I think it's wrong that you folks are even here today because you're not elected. You're elected to this position, or I don't know how you got here or how you get here, but I think it's wrong. I don't agree with the way you do things. This is why we're here. I'm here today because, quite frankly, I call you a shadow government because you're not elected. You're self-appointed. I don't know who pays you. I hope it's not my tax dollars. So somebody's got to pay you. I just wonder who pays you for being here for the amount of time that you spend at these meetings. I counted something like over 20 people behind those desks. That's an awful lot of people you're just sitting there taking up time and doing whatever you're doing to represent the citizens of the city, but I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong that you're doing this, and you need to, we need to find a way to get rid of the WRCOG.
We call it WRCOG.
COG, okay. Well, that's what you call it. I call it a shadow government. That's what I think you are, and we'd like to basically go back to a regular form of government where you're elected to a position and you serve that term, and once you're done, you're out of office. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ladies and gentlemen, please no clapping in the audience. If you want to agree with the person, maybe you can throw your hand up and wave it, but please no clapping, no disrupting the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Robert Loughton. Today, the world uses about 3 cubic miles of oil equivalent energy per year. Now, in order to obtain 1 year of the amount of energy contained in 1 cubic mile of oil equivalent energy, each year for 50 years, we would have had to have produced the following numbers of dams, nuclear power plants, coal plants, windmills, or solar panels. So this is what we should have had already up and running 50 years ago. Four of the largest hydroelectric dams in the world, the Three Gorges Dam in China, we would have to produce 50 of them, 4 of them, or 104 coal-fired power plants, or 52 nuclear power plants, or, and this should be of interest to you, to this board, 32,850 wind turbines, or 50 years ago, we would have had to already have produced and have 91 million solar panels up and running for the past 50 years. That's 91,250,000 solar panels to produce 1 year's equivalent of.
Your time's up, sir. Thank you for your comments.
There's no way you're going to replace hydrocarbons with renewables.
Thank you. Next up, Stella. And I have another public comment card after that. Arthur, I believe.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you start my time again, please? Stella Stevens, Marietta, California. I am going to be speaking on Agenda 5 item, and I have a speech prepared for that, but I also have a personal story relating to solar panels that I have. So since the speech that I have it relates to the Agenda 5 item, which one would you like me to do now?
This would definitely be the public comment period.
Okay.
For stuff
Okay.
not
Well,
on the agenda.
I live in Marietta. I was sold a bill of goods. I trusted the government, and I put in 32 solar panels on my house. I was absolutely lied to, and I think that the CCA is another set of lies. You've got 4 layers of bureaucracy that we're going to have to pay for, which includes pensions and increased costs. I personally was told that I was going to have an income for the rest of the time that I was there in my house. I was lied to. For example, 2 years ago, I overproduced 2,785 kilowatts. Do you know what they paid me? $160. Last year, I had 3,874 kilowatts that I overproduced. I was told I would never have an electricity bill. I have a bureaucratic paper bill in the form of an electricity bill that I get now. Last year, based on over 3,000 some kilowatts that I overproduced, they paid me $140. I went, what in the world is going on? The Public Utilities Commission changes the rules all the time. This is nothing different.
Thank you for your comments. Arthur?
So, good afternoon, Riverside County. My name is Arthur Schopper. I am a proud Trump supporter. If you can't tell by now, you're either blind or you are willfully ignoring it. I was just in Los Angeles County today, the 10-year anniversary of the May Day melee, and it's come to a deeper frustration for the pro-amnesty advocates in the state of California. 10 years ago, we had a Republican president and Congress that wanted to push amnesty, and they failed. And now, 10 years later, we have a president who is vocally opposed to amnesty, with a Congress that is more in line than before. To me, there is so much to celebrate. The 100 days, I've seen nothing but 100 victories and more to come. And one of those victories includes a proposed budget which will cut the funding for shadow governments like yours. That is a welcome opportunity. Too many bureaucrats, too many clerks, too many staffers. When we have 95 million Americans out of work, and the numbers in California, I can't even imagine. Border crossings have declined 73%. Veterans are finally going to get the care that they need. They'll actually be able to choose health care rather than being stuck with VA single payer, which is a monstrosity, and our veterans deserve better. We have a president who will fight for our veterans. I welcome the next 100 days, and I have already seen the victories even in California. And believe me, I think that your days will be numbered as a shadow government, as an unelected board. And I have already seen these big government phalanxes fail. And I intend to see more of these unjust, globalist agendas fall apart at our own feet. God bless Donald Trump.
Thank you for your comments. All right, that concludes our public comment portion.
Missed it.
And your
Hi,
name, please.
Trustee Capps, and I represent Toll Free IE. We're an agency or a group of people in San Bernardino County opposed to toll lanes, and so I sit in on the sandbag meetings quite a bit, and this is my first official WRCOG meeting, although we were at a joint WRCOG meeting with Sandbag in Eastville. Which one of you is Corona? Hello. My mother-in-law lives in Corona, so I make a lot of trips back and forth because she's 80 years old. And I have some comments about this toll. I'm sure you guys have heard about it already. Some tolls rising on the 91 in Corona. So $20.85. I mean, who can even afford this? Toll lanes are such a scam, and you guys had everything to do with rubber stamping this into existence. I know that because I'm sitting over at Sandbag fighting them over there. So if anyone's watching at home, these people sitting up here, they're the ones that voted for the toll lanes in your county. And these people that are elected, appointed representatives, you should vote them out of office, anyone who went along with this toll lane scam in this county. I've seen the traffic on the 91 after the toll lanes opened. It still is terrible. So the toll lanes solved nothing other than someone is lining their pockets with those exorbitant rates, and you should all be ashamed of yourself for being involved in that. And the Corona, I've been going there for 20 years since I met my husband. The town has been transformed in a very negative way. It is so awful, the traffic and all the high-density development. It makes me sick. Norco hasn't done that, thank goodness. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee. And I found your card, and thank you. You did have marked both. I didn't realize that. And then also it's RCTC of this county that does all the infrastructure like that. So you might want to look at their meetings. All right. Anyone else that marked public comment? I think I got them all here. Thank you. All right. That brings us to the consent calendar portion of our meeting. Does anyone have any comments or items to pull or abstain on for the consent calendar? I'm not seeing anyone in the queue. Did you have something you needed to abstain? No. All right. I do have a move by Lake Elsinore, second by City of Paris. Everyone else can please vote on your iPads. All right, and that item passes 20-0 with 4 abstentions or no votes. I do have, staff has asked if we could go ahead and take the Community Choice Aggregation Program first, item 5B. So we'll go ahead and go straight to that, which is what everyone's here to speak about. So we can do that first. All right, go ahead. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Barbara Spunar, Director of Energy and Environmental Programs for Western Riverside Council of Governments. Here to talk about community choice aggregation, provide you with an update of what we've been working on. Closer to the mic. Thank you. So what is a community choice aggregation, or a CCA? It's authorized under Assembly Bill 117 that allows local governments to provide electricity to their customers within the jurisdictions while continuing to have service by their investor-owned utility. In our case, is Southern California Edison, or SCE. So the CCA purchases the power, the utility still delivers the power, they maintain the lines, and they also provide billing to the customer. The customer receives affordable rates. There's local control and home program design on how your energy is, and energy efficiency programs are run. So why are jurisdictions looking at forming CCAs? Again, it provides consumers with choice. AB 117 was changed that it is an opt-out program, so customers do need to opt out and opt out back to the utility. A lot of this change was done because of skirmishes between PG&E and the County of Marin when they were first developing their CCA. It allows for provisions to purchase electricity at a cheaper rate than what the current contracts are of the utility. It does create local control over programs. You get to set the tariffs or the rates that are charged to the consumer in a public forum so that the customers can come and provide input instead of going to San Francisco to the PUC and trying to fight a general rate case against the investor-owned utilities. And in cases, it does create economic development opportunities for those jurisdictions that are looking to bring in renewable energy projects into their local jurisdictions. There's a number of activities going on up and down the state. We have 5 operational CCAs, 5 more that are expected to launch within 2017, additional 5 that are going to be within the 2018, and then you have 16 more that are exploring up and down the state. WRCOG, along with Sandbag, or San Bernardino Association of Governments, or now SBCOG, along with Coachella Valley Association of Governments, did get together to do a joint feasibility study to look at 3 areas, or the 2 counties, and to see whether or not moving forward with a CCA is viable using highly conservative numbers. We looked at what energy use in the customers. We did a 20-year forecast, the various profiles, load analysis, various governance structures, operational structures that are out there, economic impacts, as well as greenhouse gas reductions. Again, the bottom line, using very conservative numbers, and the reason we use conservative numbers is we wanted to show that if a CCA is starting from nothing, basically out on a street corner, needing then to move forward with developing a board and paying lease and doing everything, that was it still feasible to move forward, and our study has shown yes. When you look at where Edison's current 28% renewable mix, we looked at comparing that to the 33%, which is where the state where the IOUs need to be by 2020. We have an estimated 4.9% savings between the 2 counties. When you break it down into the various regions, WRCOG's about a 4.4% savings that could be passed on, again, at a high conservative rate to show the feasibility. Again, we are still in the very early stages. From staff's perspective, really it's the first 6 items is really where we're at, and we're working on these simultaneously together, which is to determine what does that CCA governance look like, what does the size of the JPA or the CCA look like, what jurisdictions are interested in being part of a CCA, then moving forward and developing the governance documents. At the end of the day, each jurisdiction that wants to participate in a CCA does have to take an action at its local city council to opt in and allow for the CCA to operate within the local jurisdiction. Once we get through this piece, which we believe will take us the next couple months to get through, and continuously coming back to our boards and committees to provide input, then moving into 7 through launch is pretty much a procedural aspect, but does take, again, additional time in moving forward, because working with Edison and their billing processes and data transferring, that piece alone is a 6-month process to ensure that everything is being able to move back and forth. So we are still a good 12 months away. We presented a number of geographical and governance structures to our CCA ad hoc committee, as well as the Administration and Finance Committee. They involved the 2-county scenario, the 1-county scenario, a sub-regional scenario, and the individual jurisdictional scenario. Our Administration and Finance Committee has selected, or is recommending, that a new JPA be developed that is separate from WRCOG, but would allow for agreement with WRCOG to provide staffing as being able to provide efficiencies and work with our resources that we have available. So what's been happening recently? We did release an RFP and received responses from a number of consulting firms on assistance with CC operations. We've received a full third-party proposals, as well as individual consultants getting together to provide individual pieces to operate and make recommendations on a CCA operations. Again, the Administration and Finance Committee's preference is a sub-regional in Western Riverside County. SB-COG is no longer involved. We've had discussions with Coachella Valley, and they're likely to pursue a separate CCA.
Again, please ask for decorum. We give you decorum when you're speaking, and we don't need to be clapping. If you want to support something, you can wave your hands. Excuse me, she's speaking, sir. Sir, excuse me, no. Go ahead.
So we have been having discussions with Coachella Valley, and they're likely in the process of pursuing a separate CCA for the Coachella Valley. However, staff and their committees are interested in working with WRCOG on where we can find efficiencies, where we can find cost sharing among the consultants, and provide some additional efficiencies and additional resources on the back end operations of a CCA. Riverside County unincorporated area is pursuing a standalone CCA. The City of San Jacinto is exploring joining the City of Lancaster's CCA, and then we have the City of Corona is in the process of preparing a feasibility study. Moving forward, direction from our ad hoc and Admin and Finance Committee, which is, again, to create a separate JPA, which focuses on Western Riverside County as its focus, however, leaving the door open for those jurisdictions in San Bernardino if they needed somewhere to go if they were interested. Our request concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair. Our requested action is to direct the Executive Director to move forward with the development of a community choice aggregation program focused on Western Riverside subregion. And again, I just want to note that the recommendation is only to focus on the geographical area of the potential CCA, Western Riverside subregion, recognizing that there's many steps to occur before any final decisions on a CCA formation is made. Thank you.
Very good. Excuse me. District 1, Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think look, the county's not involved in this, so I'm not going to cast a vote. I just want to share observations with it. We just saw the list of entities that are no longer involved with it. This came to us as a multi-region approach. The county and WRCOG went different ways. The individual cities that we just saw on the list are going different ways. Riverside City's not listed on there, but Riverside City's their own utility-owned.
Correct,
So they're
Supervisor.
They're not a part of it. So you begin to question what kind of efficiencies we're going to enjoy. But, and the county has the same issues as to whether or not we should pursue going any farther. But I think it's important to point out the LA Times article that just had come out. And I'll just summarize really quick. From California to Massachusetts, the kinds of community energy programs that LA County approved this month lowered electricity bills from 5 to 40% when they began. But after the initial honeymoon period, the savings tended to shrink, and in many cases, the electricity cost difference between the old utility and the newer competing public programs has declined to a few cents a month on customers' bills. In some cases, the cost advantage for new arrivals has disappeared altogether. I'm not a subscriber to the LA Times and their philosophies, but you know, when you have an entity like that doing their own analysis, and you look at the number of entities that have peeled away, not only for this organization, but for those of us on the county, we need to really evaluate whether or not this is going to be the savings, the holy grail that it's been portrayed to be from the very beginning. So I would, to my colleagues, I would just express, you know, move very cautiously and really question whether or not it's going to have the value that you all hope it will.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and do public comment at this point, or sorry, comment on this item. Trustee, do you want to go ahead and come back up? Is it Tracy or Tressie?
Hi, Trustee Capps. Excuse my enthusiasm, but when we defeated this at SBCOG, Sandbag, whatever they're calling themselves these days, it was a very exciting thing to get your people, get you guys to listen. And I really enjoyed what you said, Mr. Jeffries. You guys need to not be involved in this. You know, I've got a copy of a class action lawsuit you're already involved in with George Loya. It's a 3-county class action lawsuit over hero loans. Then you've got the toll lanes, the $20 whatever pricing. I mean, you guys need to look at these different things you're voting on and think, hey, should we even be getting involved in this? So you know, if it was so great, people should be able to opt in, not what's going on here with this opting out. Most people won't even know what's going on. So I just appreciate you guys coming here today, although I know you're all getting paid to sit in those chairs. You're appointed, you're not elected. You should be more worried about your individual cities instead of sitting here and usurping the authority of your city to some cog. I know you're all going to be partying out in the desert with Skag at the end of this week. You're all going to that, right? Have a great time on taxpayer dollars over at the Marriott or whatever it is where you guys are all going to be feeling like you're special when you're not. You were elected to represent the people of your city, so stop being bribed by Skag. Thank you.
Robert Lovin.
Is it 3 minutes?
It's 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, the people of Western Riverside County don't need another layer. The people of Western Riverside County don't need another layer of bureaucracy. There's no advantage for a renewable energy, electrical energy producer to be in Riverside County. We get electrical power from the Hoover Dam, and we also get power from Bonneville in Utah. It's the same grid. And if you go to, and if you're driving on to Las Vegas, there's solar farms on the north side of the Interstate 15, and which is a perfect place to put them because they're adjacent to the interstate power lines, and so it's all one grid. The solar panels on my roof, you know, they transfer electrical power to the grid. And so there's no advantage of having, you know, electrical power producer in your county, whether it's solar or wind or whatever. And if you drive through, I think it's San Antonio Pass, you know, like 90% of the windmills are not even turning. Because the wind isn't strong enough, and so wind power is a complete sham.
Thank you for your testimony. Lanier Dorlett, and then I have Jonathan Hussey.
Good morning,
Morning.
or I should say afternoon,
afternoon.
sorry. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I have an article here that was written by Viv Forbes. She lives in Rosevale, Queensland, Australia. And she's talked about what has happened to her state during all of this wind, solar, renewable stuff. She talks about growing up on a farm. She talks about that the only thing they really had at that point was green energy to use, and their own muscle with the horses and human beings. The only thing they used was kerosene for their lamps, and they had some gas set aside for a Ford utility. Then their life changed dramatically. They went to diesel. They started calling, because they were so much into dairies, a diesel in the dairy shed. So when they got that single cylinder engine, it worked the milk machines, it worked a separator, it also powered a generator that they had on the veranda of their homes, and through that miracle they had a light, bright light in rooms during the day or the night whenever it was needed because of that diesel-powered one-cylinder engine. Then suddenly all of those engines started disappearing because they had access to power through wires that came into their homes quietly from hydro dams, coal. So in one generation, they went from nothing to having that all delivered to their home at a good price. Now in South Australia, it's the next greenest state in Australia, 35% of Australia's wind turbines. These were force-fed into...
Thank you. Your 2 minutes are up. Thank you for your comments. Jonathan, and then I have Stella Stevens after that. Afternoon. There you go.
Okay. I was listening to the presentation by the spokesperson for this plan, and so kind of upset my script a little bit, so I'm going to ad-lib. But it sounds to me like what we're trying to do is provide power to the local utilities, and it's going to be based on ideology versus cost savings. We're trying to reduce our greenhouse gases by a certain amount, and we're trying to reduce or increase the use of our renewable power, both of which is questionable whether or not they're even necessary. The other thing that we're going to be doing is creating, as people have used the word shadow government, to manage this when the public utilities are, as I understand it, are in a competitive market for power. They get their supplies from different different areas, not based on ideology, but based on cost. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is creating a monopoly of power, and monopolies are never good. Monopolies are not responsive to the consumer. They can basically set their own prices, and if the power systems that they bring in are not efficient, prices are going to go up, the public is going to get screwed. That's essentially it.
Thank you for your comments. I have a card just marked Mike. All right, so Stella, go ahead and come on up. Sorry, Mike, you're after Stella.
Stella Stevens, Temecula Citizens Action Committee. Today, you're proposing a scheme to use renewable energy certificates, RECs, to change brown energy, coal, hydro, natural gas, et cetera, into renewable energy. That would be wind and solar. Renewable energy is subsidized by government taxes extracted by the people. Okay, the scheme for CCA, it intends to continue to make us subsidize renewals when the Trump administration is planning to eliminate these subsidies. Okay? The scheme of yours has a potential to destabilize the grid and cause blackouts and brownouts across the grid. Okay, I'm sure none of you have hundreds of hours of geophysics, but the land that is left to put the new plant or whatever it is that you've gotten in your scheme, you're nestled between tons of fault lines. If you think of California as a woman with varicose veins on steroids, okay? We're getting ready to have the big one, and now you're getting ready to vote on something that will take the individual electricity run by professionals that are capable of making negotiated contracts, and now you're going to have people that have no level of expertise in geophysics, taking care of the infrastructure. We'll have rolling blackouts and possibly power cutoffs. We need to vote no on this. And lastly, this whole thing is a bunch of fake numbers based on a utopian idea. I mean, it's all wonderful, but this is literally Obamacare for electricity, okay? That one went to hell in a handbag, pardon my French, but this is nothing less, okay? You've got geophysics things, and you've got lots of money, and I got shafted on my solar panels, so don't do the same.
Thank you for your comments. I have Mike up, and then after Mike will be Gary Galino.
Mike McGetrick, We the People Rising. The business plan proposed WCOG inserts itself between Southern California Edison and the ratepayers because you think you can deliver green renewable energy which costs more to produce at a lower cost. It's a fact, renewable energy costs more. Also, I don't think any of you guys really know anything about this, so you have here, you're going to realize a 5% savings. I mean, even if this was 20% savings, I still think it's a boondoggle. And then on top of that, there's not even a guarantee. And so what I see about all you guys here, I know a lot of you really aren't paying any attention because I know you all live in nice houses, you live in gated communities, and you drive nice cars. But you guys are stampeding over the edge, and you're going to turn California into a Venezuela. I know none of you believe that, but that's what you guys are doing. This renewable energy, that's another boondoggle baloney, just like illegal immigration is good for the economy. It's a fairy tale. And why don't you guys wake up? Instead of hitting the gas pedal, why don't you put on the brakes? You know, we used to be the gem of the lower 48. Remember that? California, the greatest state. Everybody wanted to live here. Now we have the worst poverty rate in the United States. We're becoming Venezuela. Thank you.
Gary Galino, and then I have a Petri Lines. I know I'm butchering that, I apologize.
Good afternoon, Riverside Parliament. We do not support community choice aggregation. I personally do not support Southern California Edison or the public utilities in California, as they are monopolies, but as one of the previous speakers just said, at least they know what they are doing. As everyone else has been saying, no one is actually elected to sit up here. I'm pretty sure none of you, when you sent out your mailers to your home cities, did you say, oh, by the way, I sit on WRCOG? And if you did, that's a first, because I've never seen one of these COG representatives do this. So as everyone else is saying, this is about creating another layer of county government. So we have the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, WRCOG, SCAG, and now this Energy CCA. And why do we need 4 layers of county government? I mean, that presentation that we just saw, we heard there's going to be 16 of these. So 16 new agencies, 16 new bureaucracies are going to be created. That's probably thousands of government jobs, thousands of pensions, thousands of paid vacations. And, you know, this whole idea of you guys all sitting up here, when you run for city council, you are not running to be an expert on energy policy, especially for 20 other cities or 10 or however many are going to be in this JPA. And speaking of which, SCAG is a JPA, and all of us behind me are sick of SCAG. They've been around for 50 years. That's 50 years too long. And as Arthur said earlier, 3 agencies are being shut down in the Trump budget: the Northern Border Regional Commission, the Appalachian Regional Authority, and the Delta Regional Authority. So the country is going in that direction, and of course California is going backwards and wants to create 16 new bureaucracies that will have to be shut down someday. No CCA.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Lyons? And then after that, Arthur Scolfer?
WRCOG. I sent you a letter via the clerk, and Mike Hoskins also sent you a letter via the clerk. Please read those. I'm with the Temecula Citizens Action Committee. I'd like to talk about the business plan. The business plan document contains fatal flaws which negate the feasibility of establishing a CCA. Performa tables identify that Inland Choice Power assumes $1.25 billion in non-bypassable exit fee charges levied by Southern California Edison through 2036. Even 1/10 of this sum is a huge debt burden for any upstart. Inland Choice Power makes no warranty that it will pay exit fee costs triggered after automatically switching or forcing consumers into its program. For example, Marin Clean Energy did initially commit to pay consumer costs in 2010 before reneging on its pledge, just 9 months after business launch. And currently, after 7 years of MCE, they are only experiencing 0.06% decrease in bills. Inland Choice Power's success is based upon inaccurate opt-out claims. Models based upon consumer participation projections are wrong. Page 24 of the business plan states that Phase 2, which is the largest enrollment phase, assumes a 25% opt-out. These opt-out assumptions are conservative estimates when compared to participation in other CCAs. Marine Clean Energy's opt-out numbers are 30%. This is all more troubling when considering that the plan assumes conservative domestic ratepayer class numbers that represent 50% of Inland Choice Power total revenue. In San Francisco, a CCA was suspended after experiencing a $4.1 million rate increase, and an increase 5 times. Councilperson Carolyn Petty said at a council meeting last summer that Lancaster entered into long-term energy contracts that are impossible to get out of, and was projecting a $6.4 million loss in 2017. This after closing out 2016 with a $3.6 million loss. Page 74 of the business plan cites Marin Clean Energy, Lancaster Choice Energy, and
Thank you, ma'am. Your time's up. Thank you for your comments. Arthur, and then Don Dix after that.
Again, I am urging a no vote, no further staff recommendations on the Community Choice Aggregation Program. Again, my name is Arthur Shopper, LA for Trump, We the People Rising. I'm from Torrance, California, mind you, LA County, all right? And CCA, you'd think, would be the most hospitable in one of the bluest sections of the state. Hermosa Beach was mentioned. I have friends in that city. Carolyn Petty's actually a friend of mine, vocally opposed to this wasteful, profligate program. And there's more. The gold standard for CCA is Marin County. The same county which got into a turf war with these other corporations, the same county which relies on 30% conventional resources. That's oil, coal, carbon, not green. It should be the marine dirty energy. The money that they claim to have saved is actually not going back to the residents. They save less than 1%. Frankly, community choice aggregation should be better referred to as communistic anti-choice aggravation. You can ask Lancaster. They've gone into multi-million-dollar overruns. Another JPA is another destructive layer of government. We have other JPAs of different forms. Your real enemy is with these energy monopolies. The answer is not to create another one. I was there when San Bernardino COG rejected any further study, and so should you. Because all it takes is a few words from a few constituents in your cities to remind them that you voted to hike up their taxes and increase pension and benefits costs. You'll be out of a job before Donald Trump cuts the funding for this bloated shadow government which shouldn't exist in the first place. LA County is already backing away from this, including the prime gem of Hermosa Beach. You ought to learn from them for once. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Arthur, is your last name Schoffer?
Shopper.
Shopper.
S-C-H-A-P-E-R.
Okay.
Sounds like shopper, but it's spelled.
Gotcha. Thank you. Let's have another another card marked Arthur in here, so I want to make sure there's one more. Don, go ahead, and after him I have Deanne.
Good afternoon. There's folks that have submitted paperwork that are more versed in the details of this. I'm going to take a 10,000-foot view. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, on the East Coast. And besides developing a very good immunity to humidity, cold weather, and bugs, I developed another immunity. That immunity is to the overreach of government. In our elementary schools when I grew up, we learned the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, as well as the Constitution, having to learn and memorize healthy portions of it, as well as understanding the founders' original intent. That early education taught me to have a healthy skepticism of government when it crawls outside of its boundaries, and that's proven to be more right than wrong. As President Reagan said, the most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government, and I'm here to help." So when government says it has the answer, it gets my attention. What we're watching is the implosion right now of the government inserting itself into the health insurance industry. Maybe they should have started with the VA first. And now Sacramento wants to do the same thing. We're also just beginning to understand the horrific scope of the unfunded pension liability facing California taxpayers in California that hangs like a ball and chain around the necks of future generations. And speaking of taxpayers' necks, Governor Brown just signed the largest tax increase on fuels in California history to solve another manufactured crisis. You know, I could go on for hours. So when a government body considers another power grab, get it? Power grab, sorry. And I mean that literally and both figuratively, it gets my attention. So when government picks winners and losers, they don't have a very good track record, and the default response from taxpayers should be to protect their wallets. The green agenda has been unmasked. It's the politicization of the green agenda, and it's been exposed for the fraud that it is. Part of me actually wants you guys to pass this because it would give us a tremendous opportunity to further expose this green agenda for the lies that have been perpetrated on our economy and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanne? Deanne?
My name is Deanne Deline. I'm from the high desert, and we're facing all this too. I'm going to start in the second part of my paper. On page 50 of the plan shows that the Inland Choice Power will require $200 million in startup costs within the first year after launching into business. Who guarantees these loans? What is the risk of the general funds to the taxpayers? It should be emphasized that municipal members who join the ICP as a member of the Joint Powers Authority will not be insulated from loan liability via the touted JPA financial firewall. Considering the ICP will likely achieve little, if any, price savings for consumers, as you've been told already, citing marine clean energy as a mature CCA model, and considering the actual reductions in CHGs are questionable, again citing MCE as a mature model CCA. Wouldn't $200 million be better spent in the community on immediate needs here in Riverside, the benefits which are easily quantified? I say no and urge you to say no too. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I have another card marked Arthur. Yours again? Okay. And then Ro Rodriguez. Come on back up. And that's the last card I have. If I missed anyone, please let me know.
I'd like to start by asking a question, and I'm appealing to your conscience. Do you have morals and do you have values? Do you represent the citizens of your cities? Or do you represent WRCOG? You are elected to your city council, but remember, we the people elected our president, Donald J. Trump, because we the people were sick and tired of all the BS from the liberals. Now, so remember, who elected you to your positions of each individual cities? We the people have the power to elect you, and we have the power to remove you when you no longer serve the American people and their best interests. So remember, I have a saying, choices you make in life, whether right or wrong, good or bad, will affect you in a positive or a negative way for the rest of your lives. So please, make the right choice. Vote no on item B5. Please, remember what you're doing. You're representing American citizens of your individual cities and not WRCOG. It's kind of hard to pronounce, so.
We realize that.
Anyway, so maybe you need to get rid of it. Maybe you need to go back to your individual cities and say goodbye.
Thank you. All right. Do I have any further staff? You want to come up, Barbara, or do you have something you wanted to say? Okay. All right. I have Marietta in the queue.
And Mr. Chair, I don't think my button's working. I'm trying to get in the queue.
I thought something clicked in and out. Okay, so I have Temecula in the queue and Marietta as well. So let Marietta go first.
All right. Just for clarification, I'm no different than any of you sitting out there in your seats. I'm just a normal guy. I got elected. And one of the things that bothered me, that has always bothered me, is the lack of the ability to be able to fight against this Southern California Edison, fight against the Verizons of the world and some of the cable companies and the water districts and all of these other entities that are affecting our lives. And the only way we can do that is to have choices. The federal and state government are piling regulations on our cities more, I mean, you just can't even imagine. Most of our tax money gets spent defending ourselves against the state and federal regulations that come down for us to deal with. So what do we have choices. We can either deal with it together as cities, which is kind of what we do here, or we can try to pay for it individually, in which each city, each entity will be paying for the same thing over and over and over, just in different districts, and they'll all run out of money. We'll spend every dime of our taxpayer money trying to individually deal with these issues. One of my promises to our constituents in my city is, you know what, I will fight to find ways to reduce your costs, to give you choices, to let you decide how you want to live your life. And so, you know, when these type of opportunities come up, we need to explore them. We need to ferret out whether they're going to be good or bad. And in this particular case, you know what, I don't see the negatives that everybody is bringing up. I really don't. What I do see, and Kevin, this goes to the supervisor's comment earlier, is if you find that it costs more than if you want to pay Edison, pay Edison. That's your choice. That's the whole thing. You get a choice. I get to choose, not the government, not Southern California Edison. There is no other provider in Murrieta than Southern California Edison. We don't have SDG&E trying to move into Murrieta to provide competition. My electricity bills over the years have gone from $60 to $120 to $200 to $250. I finally put in solar panels, my choice again, and my electricity bills are back down to $50. Well, guess what? That was my choice. And if I choose to go back to paying them $250, I'll rip the solar panels off. I don't have to do that. So I want the choices, and I want the people in Murrieta to have the choices. And when we have a group of cities that want to explore the same thing, that's what this body is for. So I'm not opposed to this. I'm not opposed to you having choices in your lives. I'm opposed to trying to make each entity fight for their own survival against the federal and state government. That's what WRCOG is. WRCOG is just the cities trying to work together and save you money instead of trying to us individually fight for our lives out there and waste all of your money doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. So I'm not opposed to this. I think this is a good idea to explore, and I think we should continue to explore it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, I can clear the room. That's my only option I have. I would ask for the decorum that we gave you in response from you. So please keep quiet and enjoy the conversation. Thank you. Mike Nagar from Temecula.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for letting me speak. A couple of things. First of all, my city chooses to be a member of WRCOG, and I was the selected member of my city council to be here. So in that sense, I presume I was elected and then chosen to represent the city here, and I think that applies to all of us. I think what I'm hearing the speaker say, and by the way, I appreciate you all coming out, and it's no small thing to come out to the county to hear an obscure body like WRCOG discuss an issue, so I acknowledge that. I'm a little confused because I think a lot of the comments might be somewhat off point. I don't think we're here to determine the method of generation. I think we're talking about buying electricity on the spot market and delivering it to our constituents at less than what they're paying Southern California Edison. Maybe I could shine a little bit of light because my city and myself has a lot of experience in doing this. Whenever a new development goes into your community, let's say a large specific plan, whether it's 500 units or 1,000 units, the developer ends up turning over that infrastructure, all the transformers, the power lines, the meters, everything, all that gets deeded over to Edison, and they literally have business handed to them on a platter, and they begin to provide electrical service. What this enables the cities to do is say, well, we can still hand over some of the infrastructure to Edison, or we can hand over the distribution of that to a third party, and we can buy the electricity cheaper than Edison is delivering it at. And what's interesting is we tend to forget Edison is a private organization. It's a shareholder organization that is out there to make money for its shareholders. And it's a great model because they're the only game in town, so everything gets turned over to them. It's interesting. We dealt with this in Temecula about 8-9 years ago. The same exact thing, and you would not believe the lobbying effort that Southern California Edison imposed upon us. We ended up starting our utility, which is generally what we're talking about doing together here, and then we didn't pursue it because they literally threw a lot of time and energy and effort into clouding the whole issue, much like the issue is being clouded here today. Nobody's talking about a solar project or a green project or a wind project or anything of that nature. We're not looking to do anything like that. In fact, Edison buys its electricity from the same place we're talking about buying electricity, from the generators of it. They don't own the Hoover Dam. They buy energy from the Hoover Dam, and they turn around and sell it to you. So, and then, of course, if you want, you can opt out. So, I'll say it again because I singled out the Hoover Dam, but there's a lot of areas that generate electricity. A lot of places electricity is generated, and Edison buys it. They make long-term commitments on the spot market, and then they turn around and sell it to you. It's an interesting model. A couple of other things. My general point, I like what Councilmember Ciardo said. The reason why we're here is so that we can speak with a greater, larger voice. As I said earlier, when we did this in Temecula, we were one of the lone cities doing this, and we got hammered. Just hammered by Edison and all of their PR and all of their money. And frankly, we didn't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars to refute all of the misinformation that they were putting out. A lot of fear tactics, actually, because they held the monopoly. So we chose not to pursue it. But when you get all the cities together like this, we start speaking with more of a cogent voice, more of a unified voice, and more of a powerful voice, if you will. My general feeling is leave it up to the cities to decide what they want to do. We've set this up in Temecula, but we haven't pursued it. Frankly, I'll cast an affirmative vote to do it here today, and then we're going to go meet with I know Ms. Spoonhour, you're coming to meet with me and the city manager, and I'll take this back to my council, and we'll decide whether or not, as a city in Temecula, whether or not we want to do it. I think that's great. WRCOG is here to save all the member agencies money. They're doing exactly what they should be doing. And I'll give you another example of this, of how there's a disparity that you never hear about. Recently, we launched a streetlight program. Okay? And what's interesting there is when a new development is put into your communities, these streetlights, just like the electrical infrastructure, is dedicated to Edison, so they get it for free. And then they turn around and they charge you for the electricity that you're using to light it. So we found out that if we put LED bulbs, we can drastically cut our electrical costs. And so we, as a board, had that implemented, and now those changes are occurring throughout the region. But here's another interesting thing. Edison is making us buy those poles back, even though they got them for free. I brought that up at my council meeting. It's not something that I liked. I would have liked them to write a check, and I don't know if our Edison representatives are here. Hey there. I would have liked them to say, you know what, great, we got it for free. Here's it back for free. Just take it over. Instead, we're having to buy it. Well, that's what a shareholder company does. Kudos to you. You know what? You turn around and got something for free, and it's selling it for millions of dollars. I mean, that's what they do. But never forget they're there to make a profit. So I have no trouble with all the cities going to do this and make decisions of their own. I do have one question, though. At what point is the delta between there's not enough cities participating? In other words, we have, 26 member organizations here. What if only 2 want to do this? At that point, does it fall apart? It's not worth pursuing. What's our threshold for minimum number of cities making this worthwhile?
Theoretically, there isn't a threshold. An individual city, the town of Apple Valley, just recently launched their individual in San Bernardino, the high desert, and they're super small. Again, what we hope is that we would see more economies of scale, and if Western Riverside, along with working with Coachella Valley, we would work in the back end to create those economies where we could work together on the consultants and being able to share the various levels to put costs forward.
I'll ask the question another way, okay, because I'm trying to get more of a distinct answer.
And I'm going to bring my consultant, Gary Saliba. up.
Very good.
Yes.
And this isn't a gotcha or something. I'm just saying that, you know, if this passes today, everybody's going to take it to their respective cities and have the conversation. If at the end of the day, cities don't want to pursue it, but maybe two do, at that point, is it worthwhile as a cog to be involved in this?
Yeah, is a general premise bigger is better just because of scale savings and economies of scale? But the CCAs can run with as few as 5 or 10,000 customers, and you've got about 300,000 here in WR Cog. So
I'll say it another way, just so we can make it clear, and maybe we can talk about it. Because there's a cost involved in COG being involved. So I guess we need to find out, I mean, we're talking about a CEO, an organization, salaries, all of that stuff. At some point, that probably doesn't make good sense if there's only 2 or 3 cities involved. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that is that we formed this utility in Temecula. We can do that now without WR COG, okay? As can all the cities, but it's good that you speak together, that we speak together and all operate as one. So that's why I bring it up. One more comment, and then I'll release the floor, Mr. Chair. I think I'm speaking for everybody that if your city goes down the road of wanting to adopt this, all of the people who spoke here today can go to the respective cities. The debate will be at their city council. Their resolutions have to be approved. But today, our COG is doing what we have charged our COG to do. And that is look for cost-saving measures that come as a result of banding together as cities. That's what we do. It's not a shadow government. It's not operating in secret. Proof in the pudding, you're here today, and I'm talking to you. I don't know how much more transparent that can get. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I just to go back to the committee, Nagar's comments. As we move forward in the development and coming out to meet with the individual cities, once we have an idea of who is in and who is out, then we'll be able to run some more performance that we would be able to bring back to WR COG as well as if the CCA is formed so that they can then see what the cost savings is that would potentially be passed on to the residents to move forward. So there's still decision points along the way that the local jurisdiction or WR COG can take if it doesn't want to move forward. If it starts to see that there's only 4 cities and maybe that savings goes down to like a 2% or something along those lines, and the CCA and the governance structure decides that it doesn't want to move forward, there's always the ability to stop.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may say one other thing, and I'll be very quick about it. About 5 or 6 years ago, I believe it was this body, because I know we discussed it in our council meeting, Edison set baseline rates across the board from all of its service areas, and we complained about that because they were treating us like the coastal cities and charging us a rate that may have been appropriate for Redondo Beach or those coastal cities, but was more egregious for us in the Inland Empire because we run our air condition. We use that energy a lot more. And you know what? We went through a great struggle to get them to adjust that, and even then, they barely adjusted that. There is virtue in independence and not giving a monopoly to a company, no matter how good a company like Edison may be or not be. I'm not here to pass judgment on them. But I brought up those examples to show that that's the difference between operating independently or operating with a monopoly.
Thank you. Councilmember Hewitt from Calamasa.
Hello? Yeah. I'm on a couple of these JPAs, so when they switch them around, sometimes I'm talking on the other guy's mic. I don't want that person to take the responsibility for what I say. First of all, I've never felt more proud to be an Inland Empire than today, to see the kind of activity of the people that come out here and say the things that really bother them, okay? First of all, you can say things that I can't, and that's why I'm really, really jealous. Every one of you got up here and spoke. Some were a little bit more right in my eyes than others, but you made me realize things about this program which our staff is a very good staff. They're very bright. They're given an assignment by a body made up of over 20 people. We can go into the the specific of whether it's, really representative or not, but that's for another day. I think the fact that each one of you pointed out things like, hey, this other CCA goes ahead and pushes, green energy more ahead. In other words, we're going to give you this, this little piece of bait right here that says you're going to save 5%, but oh, by the way, we're going to go from 28% like Edison does now to 33% green energy. Those are things that need to be pointed out. It's a little bit harder for you guys to get up there and speak, although it isn't for Don. And Don, I'm really, really disappointed in you. You had 800 fire-breathing followers the other night, and this number is far, far less than 800, but they're all great people, and they came in here and they're making their points. But the point of the matter is, if we don't stay on top of everything at every level, whether it be right at our city councils or at this next level, then bad things happen. I think you know where I stand on this, but I don't care. Come at us, come at the electeds all you want. Treat staff, though, for the hard work that they do. They're on the same side. They just need to know where you stand.
City of Norco.
I don't think, well, there it goes. Have we ever voted on a fast track or a, that's a different agency, correct?
Right, that's our CTC.
What's really important, is that the government works when you really understand who you're talking to and what we're trying to do. I come from a community of 25,000 people. I have got to get along with Riverside, Europa Valley, Eastvale, Corona, because if I don't, and by the way, of the 25,000, 4,000 are prisoners, so I got 21,000. If we don't get along, if I don't get information from every one of those people, my community will go down the tubes. I applaud the fact that you're talking to us, but understand, know what agency you're talking to. I've never voted on a toll lane in my whole life. It's just really important, because what makes the government work is you, not just standing up there and sort of saying whatever you feel you want to say. Do I have morals? Really? Is that what the issue is? You don't even know me, sir. And it's really, really important that we have to stand together, because our true enemy is, in a way, for me, Sacramento. Because as a small city, I have to have the help of everybody who's sitting here. I have to get information from all of these agencies, from all of these cities. Because in essence, when we go out and we create something, what happens is all of our money gets sent to Sacramento and they tell us what to do with it. So try to understand, try to get more involved in our individual governments. Come to Norco. We probably won't vote for this because we probably can't afford to do it. But when I look at Edison, which is a very difficult agency, I mean, I'll say it, they're very difficult to deal with. One of the deals they make to our seniors is if you want to save money on your rates, you shut your electricity off at the hottest part of the day. So I have to make sure I turn on my senior center and they have air conditioning. That's the reality of what we deal with. So when we look at a program like this, where maybe I can save rates, maybe I can find a way to band together with other communities so that I don't have a senior sitting in 105-degree heat in their home, that is the reality. I deal with that. So in a way, I don't want to support this, but in another way, if we can find a way, banding together, find a way to save some money, I mean, even businesses. My electrical bill, I got 22 employees, I got 7 buildings. By the way, I drive a 1997 truck, just for the record. It's really, it's very cost prohibitive for me to run a business because my electrical costs are incredible. And if I happen to go above, I'm in the kid business, if I happen to go above a certain rate, they triple my rates. So we have to look. Even if this doesn't work, even if it's not feasible, we have to look. And I can't do it by myself, one of 5 people in a community of 21,000 people, 25 if you want to count our gated community. We do have a gated community in Northwood. You know that, right? So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents. Call me. I'll be willing to speak to any of you. But when you stand at that podium, remember, a lot of people died for you to stand at that podium. Get it right. That's all I have to say, sir.
All right. I have no one else in the queue. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't see you in there.
Is it working?
There you go.
Great. So I wanted to thank everyone for coming out. This is wonderful, I think, discussion and differing opinions is a wonderful thing to see, and it's government in action. So with that, I am a single mom, and I am all about saving a buck. So, Ms. Spoonhour, I do have a couple of questions for you in regard to the program, and perhaps you and the consultant might be able to answer a couple of those questions. So
Certainly.
if you could just run through those, that would be fabulous. Thank you. Could you explain what the risks are to WRCOG, if there are any, of entering into such a program?
The biggest risk is if the utility rates suddenly drop and Edison reduces their rates, and their rates would be significantly lower than the CCAs. The CCA does have the ability to have a reserve, which many of the existing CCAs have a reserve and use that as rate stabilization. That would be one of the biggest risks. And I don't know if Gary wants to add that.
Okay. Thank you. So I've heard a lot of comments, and I've heard a lot of things coming from my colleagues up on the dais. So the real benefit is that we all would agree, and the bigger the purchase pool, in theory, the smaller the rate would be. Is that correct? So that's what the real benefit would be of doing and entering into a program like this?
About 90% of the cost are the actual power supply cost, and that's a variable. You can buy as much or little as you want. So whether you're buying a lot or little, that price is the same. But the other 10 or 15% your overhead, which is about the same for a small utility versus a big one. So bigger utilities have lower overhead costs per customer. So that's where the scale savings are.
Okay. And as far as an opt-out, is there any cost to the customer to opt out, or are there any restrictions involved in an opt-out? Say, for instance, they get their first couple of bills, realize that there is a savings or is not a savings, whatever the deal may be. Is there a restriction on opting out at what time you can do that?
No, there is not a restriction on when they can opt out. For the CCA and operational perspective, as well as for Edison's, for data transfer, it's good to get the opt-outs prior to the launch or right after the launch has occurred. I don't anticipate that if the CCA moves forward and the governing board moves forward, that they would want to charge for an opt-out. The one piece is that Edison, if you opt out, Edison may want to keep that customer for a year before they would allow them to come back to the CCA.
Okay. And as far as guarantees for rates, is there at any time going to be any guarantees made on a savings? If someone were to choose to stay in, are we guaranteeing that they're going to save a certain percentage?
No. I think we're going to do our best to present, because the governing board of the CCA is the one that sets the rates, and they would be the ones that would select what those rates are, and staff would present, here is the options, here are the savings, and have that governing board would then select the rates.
Okay. And will any comparison billing be done to show what the possible cost would be coming if you were to join the CCA versus what Edison has currently?
Yes. The CCA is required to do a billing once a year to show the cost comparison between the CCA and the IOU. If the governing board would like that to see done more often, because Edison does increase your rates more than one time a year, because they go off of whatever they've been told by the CPUC as far as how they implement their rate structures. So if that CCA governance board would want it more often, more frequently, then that is something that the CCA staff would present.
Okay. And Just a couple more questions, sorry. I just want to make sure, because I don't think this was covered in the program, in the presentation, so I just wanted to make sure we've got this covered. So, as far as the CARE program, I know Edison has a CARE program for income qualifying individuals who meet that threshold. Would that same program or like program be offered with the
That
CCA?
same program is residents can take advantage of. Any rebates or incentives that Edison provides, they provide through the public goods charge, which is charged through the distribution piece that every consumer pays. Those programs will still be available to any and all CCA customers as well as Edison customers.
Okay, is that something that they would have to apply for again? Or is
No.
it something that would be automatic if they were on the program before? Because a lot of these are elderly individuals or lower income individuals that may not understand or be able to fill out that paperwork and complete those types of things. So is it an automatic
It's an automatic that they would come across with the same rates that they have. So with the CARE rates, we would get a listing of every single rate and who's assigned to what rates. So we would know, and we would move that straight forward with the CCA.
Okay. And in regard to any repairs, so say I join or I don't opt out and I'm part of the CCA, and for some reason power stops coming to my house and something has gone wrong with the transmission lines, who am I calling and who's repairing the transmission?
You're calling Edison. Edison continues to take care of the distribution lines, as well as the billing and anything that occurs. So if a transformer goes out, or if someone hits a light pole on the corner and the lines go down, you're still calling Edison, because they are taking care. That is what the distribution charges are that you're paying for on your Edison bill. The CCA is only the top section of the bill, which is generation only.
Okay. And in regard to a comment that my colleague made, that Edison is a shareholder for-profit company, basically. They've got a whole hierarchy that they go through. Does that mean that CCA would be income neutral then? So nobody is making any money off of that, or is there any overhead to that, or how does the program fund itself and work?
So the program, initially, the CCA would secure capital either through a loan or through, if the consultants are offering, to pay for the setup. The CCA would need to borrow a couple months in advance worth of money to pay for the generation that they're purchasing, because it'll be a couple months before the money starts coming in from the consumer, from the billing from Edison. There are cases you build up your reserve, whatever the reserve is set for. Normally, CCAs set it up for 2 to 3 years of operating. Moran has actually set a higher reserve so that they can build enough money to buy down credit, so that they can, in the future, if they're bringing in energy projects, that they can have a lower cost of capital to help that project move along within its local jurisdiction. If there are overages, then CCAs have developed programs and incentives that can go back to the individual jurisdiction, or can go back to the local jurisdiction, depending on how that governance board deals with, or they can reduce the rates even further. So there's options that the governance board would be able to do if they wanted to stay in a revenue neutral as far as passing savings continuously back, or building reserves so that they can get a reduced rate in capital for any expenditures that they would want, in moving projects forward.
Okay, so that would be established at the time that either the JPA is created or that the city incorporates into a resolution, whatever they're going to do.
As the CCA is developing its governance structure, its bylaws, and whatever director that it has set up, and the direction and policies that it makes.
Okay. And as far as, I know that the county has already said that they're out because they're exploring their own program. And I know that the City of Riverside is their own public utility. What other jurisdictions are not going to participate already because they have their own? I believe Banning has their own, and
so City of Banning has its own.
City of Moreno Valley has a portion of its own. However, the city can adopt into the CCA for the remainder of its SCE residents. The City of San Jacinto is exploring partnering with the City of Lancaster. And then again, the City of Corona, they're doing a feasibility study, and they're not sure where they are at this point. So that leaves us about 13 jurisdictions, because a municipal utility cannot participate in a CCA because they are a municipal utility that purchases and handles their own distribution.
Okay. So my question is this: being the representative from one of the water agencies, it's obviously going to be kind of interesting to see how this plays out for an agency such as mine. Energy is a big component of moving water around. So there's a consideration that I have to look at when I'm looking at which jurisdiction is going for what, and how that's going to affect our rates, being that energy is, you know, a big mover for us. So that's just a comment that I have, and my consideration is to try to move forward. And then my other one actually is for legal counsel. Just a point of clarity for both water agencies that are sitting out here. If we don't need to pass a resolution, is this something that we're going to need to vote on, or is this something that we're going to kind of wash at the sidelines and I just got to ask my questions for a whole lot of free?
Oh, as far as pursuant to the ARCOG JPA?
As far as voting on this today, are the water agencies a part of
Yes.
this vote? Because technically we don't have to go to our boards for resolution?
You are permitted to vote on any matters other than TUMF, so
Okay.
yes, you may vote.
And just a follow-up, the water district would be a customer. They would be a commercial customer. So when commercial rates are determined, you as the commercial customer would be able to see what your current rates are at what all of your facilities or how many ever bills you pay. And you have the ability to opt out if you see that your Edison rates are more favorable than what a CCA rate would be for the water district's commercial accounts.
And that would be taken on an individual jurisdiction basis?
It's based on your bill. So you, the customer, if your facility is in the city of Temecula and the city of Temecula is part of the CCA, then that account would be a customer of the CCA. If your facility is in Banning, and Banning is not part of the CCA, then your facility and that account would not change. It would still be Banning. In Temecula, you would have the option of either staying with Edison or the CCA. Correct. You could opt out.
To opt out, correct. So Western sits over 9 jurisdictions, something like that, 10 jurisdictions. So we would have to see which cities or jurisdictions are participating, and if the county chose to go in a different route, then we'd have to, whatever outlying area we cover with them, we would either go with their program or continue to stay with Edison, depending upon whatever the rates are. Is there going to be an offering of a rate before you actually continue to opt in? Before you opt out? In other words, will we know what the discount is up front?
You would know by that time before it rolls out, because once a jurisdiction or the CCA is formed, then again we have 6 months of working with Edison. What we have to do is the CCA would need to take all of Edison's rates or tariffs. In our region, we probably have like 125 different tariffs. And sort of pare those down into a more sensible, realistic, understandable rate structure for the CCA Governance Board to approve. And you would know if you are a GS1, whatever, TOU, and your rate is this, and then the corresponding CCA rate would be this. So we could figure it out for you.
Thank you very much.
Great questions. Okay, I don't have anyone else. Excuse me. I don't have anyone else in the queue. Is there anyone else wishing? Mike?
So, Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to move this item. One last comment. The risk is if Edison lowers its rates. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
And I think that would be marvelous.
Me too.
That would be wonderful. At which point, our rate would still be, going in, we would be lower than Edison's, but if Edison lowered their rates, I think at that point you have competition, which is exactly what the purpose is. So I want to move the item, but I just need a little guidance here. On that question I asked as to the viability of something like this, if only a handful participate, will we have a chance to make that decision again in the future, or is our decision today go all the way, this is done? I mean, if it comes out you only have 2 cities participating, I don't know that we want to do it. So how would that work?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Rick's about to go.
Or does Rick want to answer?
No, go ahead. I'll
Sorry. There is a point to stop. Again, this is to figure out the governance area. The subregion, we have a lot of steps to take. We need to start forming JPA documents and bring those through our committee structures. We need to come out and visit with each individual jurisdiction to answer your questions, see where everybody's going. So there will be a couple more times and opportunities for this board to say, we don't think you have enough. And move forward.
If I move this item today, that means that you'll begin your outreach to see what cities are interested. Is that fair enough? Or will you start the whole JPA paperwork, which is no small thing? Wouldn't it be wiser to get pseudo commitments from the cities before you start that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. I think what the recommendation is today is a process of winnowing down the geography of a potential CCA, and that's it. Now, one thing that hasn't been mentioned is when we put the RFP out for consultant services, we asked for responses for a number of different scenarios and different participation rates, and we just received the responses from those RFPs. So, for example, we asked for information from respondents on the viability and their cost proposals for a 2-county CCA, for a single-county CCA, for a sub-regional CCA, and then below that, levels of geography saying, for example, if you have a sub-regional CCA, various levels of participation in that CCA. So we need to compile all that information. We need to meet and work with the consultants because those cost estimates will factor into the very discussion and decision point that you're looking for. So it's going to take a lot of time. This is just geography based to help us focus in on all of the other things that need to be part of this.
Got it. Thank you for the comprehensiveness of working on this, Ms. Spoonhour and Mr. Bishop. I'll go ahead and move that item.
We'll go ahead and do that on the iPad, Mike, and then we'll see if someone wants to second that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, we've lost connectivity on the iPad, so we're going to do a verbal vote.
Okay, we'll take a verbal vote. I have a motion by the City of Temecula. I have a second by the...
Murrieta, thank you. And I'll do a roll call.
Okay.
City of Banning?
Abstain, and my reason is that we can't participate.
Correct, thank you. City of Calamasa? No. City of Eastvale? No. City of Yurupa Valley?
Yes.
Yes. City of Lake Elsinore?
Yes.
Yes. City of Menifee? Yes. City of Moreno Valley?
Yes.
Yes. City of Murrieta?
Yes.
Yes. City of Norco?
Yes.
Yes. City of Paris? Yes. City of Riverside? Abstain, thank you. City of San Jacinto?
Abstain.
Abstain, thank you. City of Temecula?
Yes.
Yes. City of Wildemar?
Yes.
Yes. Eastern Municipal Water District?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Western Municipal Water District? Yes. And we have absent City of Canyon Lake, Corona, Hemet, Districts 1, 2, 3, and 5, and Morongo Band of Mission Indians. 13. And that passes.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Barbara. We have been very pressed for time at this meeting. We're going to go back to item 5A, but we're going to ask that we just take action on the continue the public hearing for the 2 cities we need to continue it for. Is that okay? Unless there's some item in there that we need to absolutely deal with today?
Present that action?
Please do.
Okay. All right, then I have one action today to continue the public hearing for the cities of Marysville and Chester Lake until June 5th, 2017.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Do we have to do a roll call vote?
Unfortunately, yes. Steve? Well.
Is there anybody that objects to that action? Everybody else is voting in favor?
Does anyone object to the action? So moved. All right. So the next item on our agenda is item, 5C. I've been told by staff we have many members that will be recusing themselves on this item, and we've been asked to go ahead and move that to the next meeting. Unless someone has an objection to that, we'll move that to the next meeting. That's the TUMP update. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll go straight to the budget. I guess this is something we do need to get done today. Ernie? It is just to receive and file, but so Ernie, could you maybe condense your presentation? Really fast.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Executive Committee. Ernie Reyna, Chief Financial Officer for WRCOG. Excuse me. So today I have the 2017-2018 agency budget for presentation. This is the first round of the budget itself. It's been through the various committees once. It will come back to this body again next month. So wanted to give you an overview, look at this particular budget of where we stand and where we're going to go. Today's presentation will talk about the budget structure itself, how our 4 departments are set up with their respective programs, our expected revenues and expenditures of the agency as well as the departments, some budget highlights, and we'll go over the schedule of where it's been and where it's going to go. So really quickly here. So first, talking about the budget structures and how we work here. 4 departments, as mentioned. We have general fund, our energy, environment, and transportation. As you can see, some of the departments, the programs that are listed with the various departments there. Government relations and our general fund. We have our PACE programs, both local and statewide in the energy department. Used oil and solid waste environment, and TUMP is in our transportation department itself. Starting with the general fund. Revenue sources there include member dues as well as some beyond and fellowship program. Some of the expenditures that are included here are items such as the rent and lease, legal fees, audit, and bank fees from here. Currently, for this particular budget, we have 8 full-time employees with 4 partially charged employees going here. And the general fund does charge overhead to the other programs, so it can balance the budget. As of right now, we're looking at anticipated revenues of about $6.3 million, as expenditures of about $5.6 million. Over in our energy department, revenue sources include the PACE program, our largest one, about $9.1 million on the statewide, consisting of $7.6 million on the program and about $1.5 million in recording. The local program is looking at about $1 million projected, $816,000 coming from the program, as well as $183,000 from the recording. We have some carryover revenue coming in from the prior year of about $4.7 million. We're looking at about $16.3 million for revenues here, against expenditures of about $16.2. Staffing is about 15 employees there, 11 of which are current, and 1 is to be hired prior to the year end, and 3 more that are potential positions that could be coming in as well. Over in our environment department, revenue sources include 2 items, solid waste and used oil, totaling about $372,000. Expenditures are the same, they're equal here. And this particular budget is calling for 2 full-time employees to the environment department. Last but not least is our transportation department. Largest source of revenue is the TUMP program at $41 million. All in total, about $42.6 against expenditures of about the same, $42.2. There are 3 full-time employees that will be charged to this program, as well as 4 that are partially charged to the transportation department itself. Looking at the agency as a whole, we're about $65 million. Most of that coming from our transportation TUMP program. The TUMP fees itself are $42.6, and the energy of about $16.3 million. Expenditures are about $64.4 million. We're looking at transportation having about $42 million from TUMP projects itself, $16.2 million in expenditures coming from the energy department, and the rest coming from the general fund and environment, as you can see there. As far as the budget schedule, we've gone through 1 full round of budget. We started with our finance directors back on March 23rd. We've hit our administration and finance committee on April 12th. Our technical advisory committee got to hear the presentation on April 20th. We're here today. We'll come back to this body on June 5th for a second round. And finally, the budget itself will be approved at the General Assembly on June 22nd. Today, Mr. Chair, this is just a receive and file just for informational purposes, and that concludes my report. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions? I don't have anyone in the queue. Nope. Thank you, Ernie.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and go to closed session at this point. We have a action item that the attorney is itching to get us to take action on, and we have to do it this month, and we're 1 person short of losing quorum. So in the interest of... Laura just left? Huh? See if we can grab her for 1 minute. Rick's gonna see if he can grab her real quick. So if everyone could please go ahead and clear the room. Thank you. Everyone else could go down to the audience for a quick second.
No. But it'll be, we're going to make it really short. We're going to make it really short.
Oh, are you coming back to the meeting after?
All right. He's staying for a minute because he's a team player. We're back in open session. All right, Janice, where are we at? So we have items for future agendas. Does anyone have any items for future agendas? Rick, do you want to report out anything?
No.
Okay. Gary Norquist has already left. Erin Sassy has excused herself.
And we do need to report for the record that we did authorize litigation, although we don't say who, against whom. So that'll be in.
All right, so no one give it away. Okay. We have a report from committee representatives. Brian, do you have anything to report? No, I'll skip mine. No items to report. Okay, general announcements. Any members have any general announcements? Storm baseball. That's it. All right, our next meeting is June 5th. Any other action items or any other items we need to take care of, Steve? We're good? Okay, so adjourned. Thank you.